Let's see. Okay, we are live. We're here with Alex Levine. How you doing, Alex?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. It's an exciting week for you. Your record's coming out soon, coming out on Friday. Can you tell us a little bit about the album that's coming out?
Yeah, so it's called Towards the Center, and I recorded it with some of my best friends from Detroit, Michigan. Ben Ralston's on bass, Marcus Elliott's on saxophone, and Stephen Bagelhold's on drums. And we worked very hard on the music together to create something that we're pretty excited about. And it was a good learning experience putting this together.
Hmm.
That's the first thing I'll say about it.
Nice. So tell us a little bit about you. Not everybody knows, where you're from, kind of what you're up to.
Yeah, I'm from West Bloomfield, Michigan, which is suburb of Detroit, Michigan. Um, Came up in that area learning um, first from just observing people play, going to the Detroit Jazz Festival, checking out music in the area. Um, Started playing guitar at 12 years old um, at summer camp because I thought it was cool. And went from there. I liked it from the onset a lot. I started just creating music spontaneously, individually, from the beginning of my guitar playing experience. That was the main thing I enjoyed doing, just improvising and making up my own songs. That's how I referred to it at that
Hmm.
time. Yeah.
That's cool. So that was kind of like your gateway into playing jazz, was kind of just from making stuff up from the beginning.
Yeah. That was I would I played for a summer, and then I asked for guitar lessons from my parents when I got home. We found a guitar teacher um, who I studied with for about 4 years following that. But he was a great guy, and he would show me a lot of stuff, starting from you know the earliest type of you know introduction to basic guitar technique and stuff like that. But I would take that stuff, and what I would do with it is just generally learn a concept. So he would show me, let's say, like a C major chord and an F major chord, and
Hmm.
I would take that and I would generally try to do something with it myself, make up something myself with that material. That was kind of my gateway to learning. I would just try to work with the material that I was given.
Gotcha. So who are some of your, biggest compositional and playing influences, up till now?
Um, yeah, I would say Grant Green is a great guitar influence for me. Um, I love Jimi Hendrix. I love, um, you know, in terms of just music in general, Sonny Rollins.
Hmm.
Um, Jim Hall is a great guitarist who I love too. And, of course, Wes Montgomery. Charlie Christian is the, primary person for me too. And then here I've spent a lot of time with the guitarist Miles Okazaki, who has been a great influence for me. Um, Learned a lot from him. And Henry Grimes is a major influence for me, someone who I've studied with, who actually the album is dedicated to.
Hmm.
Um, and some of his poetry is a direct influence on the music that is on the album.
Oh, very cool. And I think maybe I've heard you mention, at least to me, that you've been kind of interested in Steve Coleman's music.
Yeah, that was great. This whole month he was down at the Stone, so I was there. I think six nights,
Hmm.
out of the month, checking that out. And yeah, his music is definitely very important, I think, just to all of us who are trying to pursue our own individual path in this type of art form right now. And he's just very inspiring in terms of how much um, clarity and effort he puts into all of his endeavors. You know, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I totally know what you mean. Is there something in particular that's drawn you towards, his band, like his style, and maybe the guys in his band, like Miles, I know works with Steve.
Yeah, yeah. I guess. Well, the thing that really drew me in was seeing his band play uh, at the Newport Jazz Fest
Okay.
in 2012. Um, that band was incredible. That was with Tyshawn Story, Thomas Morgan, I believe it was David Vareas on piano, um, Jen Shu, great vocalist, and then Jonathan Finlayson, and I think that's the band. I might be missing someone, but yeah, that was one. That was a transformative experience for me. Hearing that group,
Hmm.
um, it was just I didn't understand shit about what was happening, but it was very intense for me just witnessing that. And I remember after that concert, I was already somewhat into Steve Coleman's music. I was familiar with it, but after that, that kind of like made me realize the intensity of what was going on there,
Hmm.
and how much, you know, how much was in that. Um, and I mean, it was similar to the experience I had seeing the Wayne Shorter Quartet um, at the Detroit Jazz Festival. I think that was a year prior to that, maybe. Which it's just that kind of thing where you realize that there are people on the planet who are doing something that is, um, you know, pushing humanity forward in a certain sense. Like
Yeah.
it's something that's both intellectually and spiritually and all of these things very rewarding and intense.
Hmm.
So I liked that. That was important to me.
And so, do you think that those same people, Wayne and Steve Coleman, also influence maybe the compositional side of what you do?
Yeah, that's interesting because I haven't thought about how Wayne Shorter has influenced it, but I think his quartet influences the approach of most people or many people now that I know. But
Hmm.
like in terms of my own band, my approach to the band is basically that everyone is an equal. And as a band leader, I don't try to be like a dictator type figure.
Hmm.
I try to be more just open to the total group dynamic and and that's what I noticed with Wayne's band. But he also plays such an important role in shaping the overall activity and energy of the performance. So, I'm trying to learn more and more about that, like how to be a band leader in
Hmm.
terms of enabling a certain um, energy to exist and to flourish in that setting, but not being overly controlling at the same time,
Yeah, no, I totally know what you mean. It's a tough balance to find.
Yeah, it's challenging.
So I know there's like a very detailed, well, in the liner notes, very detailed description of the concept behind the record, and also on your website. I know you have it kind of posted there as well. Could you give people kind of like the rundown, and however long you'd like, about the inspiration for the album, and kind of the background about this project in particular?
Yeah, sure. Well, I guess it's been in the works for a long time. It's just like, all creative endeavors, it's kind of something that is built upon each layer of experience and each failure and all of that type of thing.
Hmm.
And so I think that, the seeds for this album were planted a long time ago. Well, I went to University of Michigan, which was a great experience. And they had a cool program there that was, it was in the music school, but they had a program specifically focused on contemplative practices. So we would study meditation and other forms of practice. And that was very beneficial for me. And it influenced my day-to-day practice in terms of working on music and in terms of just developing as a creative individual. Um, and I think that is the foundation of the album in a certain sense. Um, and also during that time period, I was also, working with the guys on this album. I met Marcus even before that in high school at a civic jazz program that Rodney Whitaker was running, which
Hmm.
was musically like, and just in terms of seriousness, that was a whole new world for me. Like being around kids my own age who could like play giant steps at 400 beats, it's like,
Yeah, sure, yeah.
so that's very intimidating, but it's also like exciting too, to see how seriously people are taking what they're
Right,
doing.
right.
And like I wasn't anywhere near the level of those guys. I was just like, whoa, I'm witnessing what they're doing. But it was a very good experience being around them. So Marcus was there, um, and then um, Ben Ralston, the bassist, I met during my time at Michigan. Um, and anyway, I'm getting off course in terms of the question, but the question was the background of the album. So
Hmm.
the whole contemplative practice of being um, in a creative mind state and open to the total input of a group, I think is really important to the album. And so, um, I've been working on the compositions for the album for probably about 6 years, maybe.
Oh wow, cool.
Um, and they've everyone in the band just knows the music. And another thing we did leading up to the recording was we did a 3-week residency as a group, um, and that kind of just enabled us to explore areas and practices that were, um, you know, important for opening up our approach as an ensemble. Um,
Where did you guys do that?
we did that in March of 2016.
It was here in New
And
York, or it was in Detroit?
no, that was actually in Poschiavo, Switzerland.
Oh man.
Yeah, so that was really a beautiful place, and we're actually doing it again next June.
Oh wow, cool.
So we'll be over there and hopefully create a whole new batch of music.
Hmm.
Um, and just continue to cultivate that energy that we're building on this album. So um,
So what's going on with the tunes that are on this record? I know they all. You said you've been working on them for 6 years. Are they connected? Are they all kind of? Is it one kind of? It's not one piece. They're all kind of their own tunes, right? It's not like a suite, for example.
there
But
is one suite that I composed during our time
mhm,
uh, in residency, um, and that suite, which to me that suite um, is it's the thing that compositionally I'm most, I don't know if I would say most proud of, but the thing that I see as like, this is kind of the direction that I see things going towards a little bit more.
mhm.
Um, so that suite is composed, um, in, it's influenced by these writings of Henry Grimes that I've been checking out for 4 years or so.
Hmm.
Um, and Henry, you know, as everyone knows, is an incredibly important bassist. Um, but he's also a really wonderful poet. Um, and his poetry has been really important to me. So
How did you come across it?
I came across it. Jerry Allen, who was a teacher of mine
Hmm.
during college, brought some students to New York to play at the Stone.
Hmm.
Um, and we presented some like student group performances at the Stone. And she also, that week, she was curating the whole week, she did a performance with Henry.
Okay.
Um, and so she introduced some of the students to Henry, including me. And 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 him and his wife Margaret are very kind people and very open-minded. So um, I just got to know them, and I also just was checking out his music more and more, and also his poetry, which I just discovered by researching.
Gotcha.
Um, yeah, and I've just kept that book, Signs Along the Road, for a long time, and just been reading it and rereading it. And
Nice.
yeah,
That's
but in
cool.
terms of like the compositions being connected, they are in a certain sense, but
Hmm.
they're also, you know, just pretty, um, you know, individually constructed,
Yep.
except for the suite, you know.
Gotcha. Cool. So with this being your first project with this group as a leader, what were some of the challenges that you faced along the way, and if you could share any wisdom for anyone that's thinking about doing the same thing, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Um, I think the challenge is, you know, allowing the best possible, you know, the best possible performance of each individual to be realized. Just like composing with the intention of creating something that is going to be felt by everyone who's performing it. You know, um,
Hmm.
and not, I didn't make the album just because I felt like I wanted to make an album. I
Sure.
made it because I felt like I really wanted to make something happen with this group of people. And, you know, that was important to me. I mean, there's a lot of challenges that are like logistical challenges and financial challenges. Luckily, I did a Kickstarter, which was great. That went really well.
Mm-hmm.
So that, that's interesting. That's a good option for someone who's doing a first album, I think. I think it would be more difficult for, you can't just keep on doing Kickstarters.
Right. Sure.
Maybe you can, that would be great. Um, but yeah, just, I would say put a lot of thought into what you're doing, and think about the people that you want to be involved in it, and make sure that they are invested in what you're doing as much as you are, or as much as it's possible for someone else to be invested in what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's something that I admire about Steve Coleman's music too, and all that everyone in his groups is so invested in the music, and it's not just a gig,
Sure.
so I guess maybe that kind of answers your question. I'm not sure.
No, no, it does. I think it's difficult with people being so busy, and correct me if I'm wrong, but not all the band members live in New York, right?
None of them do.
So none of them do.
Yeah,
So it's more logistical challenge.
yeah,
So how have you kept up with that? Like, how do you guys get together? I know sometimes you've been going back a fair amount to play with them, maybe, or
yeah. I go back fairly often. Um, we have a collective together, that we formed uh, last year called Polyfold.
okay,
Um, and that's been really exciting to work on. That's something I've learned a lot from. Um, and that collective has really kind of like enabled a lot of this relationship to continue too.
so tell us more about the Polyfold. What you say it's a collective. What does that entail for you all?
Yeah, I mean, it first and foremost is just a way of a bunch of artists, um, similar to what you're doing with outside in music, just having people work together and share information
Hmm.
and share resources, um, and also facilitate new music being created. Um, that's the main thing.
Cool.
Um, and we've also organized concerts, and um, we're working on a lot of stuff. There will be a Polyfold, um, an event that is co-presented by Polyfold and the New School,
Okay.
at the New School on October 30th.
Okay.
That's in the works right now, but
No, that's cool. What was it going to be? A concert or?
it's going to be like, it's going to be a crazy event. It's going to be like, we have a, that glass room right in the front of
Hmm.
the New School booked from 4 to 10 p.m.
Okay.
So it's going to be like a whole bunch of artists and bands performing, um, about half of which will be from the New School, and then half of which will be from Detroit or the Polyfold Collective. Um, and um, there will also be visual art and dance and other
Oh, wow.
other forms of art. So
Awesome. So where can people go to find more info about Polyfold and that event?
that's a good question. We were just discussing making our website.
Okay.
We have a website right now which you can go to polyfold.org, and there is information on there. We're also on Facebook and stuff like that. Um,
Okay. Yeah, I'll try to find some of the links to some of the stuff we've been talking about and put them in the description box on YouTube, so people will be able to go
cool.
down and click on them. So just look down there if you're looking for some of these links.
Can't
So
believe this is on YouTube.
yeah. So it'll be. So we'll link to your website so people can read about the background of the record, and then to the Polyfold and all of that. So you've got that coming up. I know you're about to hit the road as well with the band again, right?
Yeah, and that band, I actually, um, that tour, which is starting on Friday, is actually with um, my band that I've created in New York.
Okay.
So it's some of my best friends, you know, who we've been working on the music for a long time too.
Hmm.
It's Jay Sawyer on drums, Sam Weber on bass, and Yuma Uesaka on tenor saxophone. So yeah,
Nice.
we're doing that tour together, and we're going to Burlington, Vermont, Montreal, and Rochester, and SUNY Fredonia.
Cool. And that starts this Friday. That's October 7th, right?
Yeah, which is the day the record comes out.
Right. So where are you going to be on the 7th?
We're going to be at the Radio Bean in Burlington, Vermont.
Great.
Yeah,
Awesome.
so that will be fun.
And what do you have any other concerts set up after that the mini
Um,
tour for the band?
yeah, well, I'm going to Detroit October 15th. I have a show in Detroit on October 15th,
Hmm.
um, which is actually going to be cool. It's opening for another band that's from New York called Battle Trance,
Okay.
which is really a really cool band. That's 4 saxophones.
Oh wow, I haven't heard it. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, they're really cool. Um,
And
and
where is that one?
that's at a place called Trino Softs
Okay.
um, in Detroit. And then that October 30th thing,
Hmm.
I think my band will be playing at the new school.
Great. And
Yeah.
so I know you. That's a lot. I mean, that's a lot of stuff in and of itself. You have the Polyfold and
Yeah.
your own band. What are some of the other like side band projects and other projects you're involved with that you're excited about?
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the main things is this Polyfold stuff,
Hmm.
um, which I wouldn't call that a sideman project, but it's just something that occupies a lot of um, my work and my thought process.
Sure.
Um, Other than that, I mean, I've been playing with Yuma's band, which has been really cool, working on his music.
Hmm.
Um, and another really cool saxophonist that I've been playing with is Peyton Pleninger, who's really awesome. Um, I had been basically I've been just like working as a accompanist with a lot of vocalists as well around the city doing that, which
Cool.
is a very good you know very good experience. You know, learning that art form, how to be an accompanist, and
Hmm.
um, yeah, it's a lot of different things.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, so here's a question I have for you about it's just kind of related to life in general. I know you moved to New York from Detroit, and
Yeah.
you're doing your thing and making records and playing with everyone. If you were thinking about talking to other students or other people thinking about moving to New York, I mean, what are some of the things that you didn't realize you were going to have to do, or like just
Hmm.
the experience of moving and kind of um, making things happen when you first get to the city and connecting with people, all that kind of stuff. What was your experience, and what would you say to someone that wants to move to New York?
Hmm. I would say it's good to let each stage, be its own stage. You know, like accept that excitement when you move to New York and capitalize on that excitement. Um, of just being open-minded to everything and just going to check out everything and um, exploring as much as you can and not knowing, what area is necessarily the area that you want to be in. Just check it out. Check out everything. Um, and yeah, I when you first move here, I think it's good to have the mindset of being like a traveler, kind of, and that same mentality you have when you're just, you know, alone traveling around the world or wherever you know it might be.
Hmm.
and you just have that ease of interaction that comes from not really caring too much. Um, don't I would say don't be too worried about like the social dynamics, because people I think are actually pretty nice overall in New York,
Yeah, totally.
but people have like a hard shell, maybe
Sure. Yeah.
protective somehow. But I think that's just because they're protective of their own energy and stuff.
Mm.
Because it's very exhausting in New York.
Right.
That's
Right.
the other thing. I would say just take care of yourself, right? I mean, what would you say?
Me?
Yeah,
Oh, that's a good question. Uh, I guess I've my some similar things, trying to capitalize on your excitement when you first get here. But I think it's important to have a clear idea of why you want to come and kind of what you want to do when you get here, because
yeah,
there's so many people and it's such a competitive environment that I think it's easy to get
mm,
swallowed up in the hustle, the daily hustle. Just like, how am I going to pay my rent and all of that. And if you want to come to be a musician, you're going to have some kind of idea of what that means, like what you're willing to do, what you're not willing to do, that kind of stuff.
yeah. I agree with that.
For
Yeah,
me,
I definitely agree with that. I think it's like also just having that patience that is required. It's because I feel like a lot of people might have the expectation that they go to someone's gig and they introduce themselves once, and that's something's gonna come out of that. In
right,
my
sure,
experience, like you gotta go check out people for years, before they even like remember who you are or something.
sure, yeah.
So it's kind of good. Like people like you've been in New York for what, like 7 years, 8 years?
Yeah, I moved in 2010. So
Yeah, I feel like that's the, we've had this discussion about like um, being consistent,
mhm,
and I think that applies to being here too.
totally, totally. Man, well, it's great to hear about everything that's happening. I'm so happy that the record's coming out, and if you want to grab it, you can either go to. I'm sure. Do you have a link up on your website, people
Yeah, I
to
have
buy a
a
copy?
couple. Yeah,
Great. So make sure you go check the link in the description to get over to Alex's site so you can order a copy. It's going to be out on Friday. It'll be up on all of the digital sites, so you can find it at your favorite place. Anything else you want to add on? Thoughts, feelings, jokes?
this has been a very traumatic experience. I don't know if I'll ever be doing an interview again. No, I enjoyed it. Thanks for this interview. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
of course. And be on the lookout for Alex, because he's going to be on tour this month, and I'm sure this will not be the last time he brings the band out on the road. So make sure to stay tuned. All right. Well, Alex, thank you so much, and we'll see you real soon.
Yeah, thanks, Nick.
Yeah, you bet.
All right.